Hello and welcome once again everyone. Today's video features the brand new Tier 8 American battleship USS Kansas. The USS Battleship Kansas is an enhanced version of the Colorado class, similar in speed but with a 50% increase in main battery guns, while keeping the same 406mm gun caliber. This is the first ship in the brand new branch of the US Battleships, which also includes the Minnesota, and in update 0.9.10, the Vermont at Tier 10. This branch differs quite a bit in both characteristics and playstyle from her tech tree compatriot, the USS North Carolina, and will feel like an acquired taste for many players. Just like that fine wine that takes a very long time to mature, which does seem quite appropriate due to the slow speed of these ships. So before diving into the meat and bones of the Kansas, let me put up the build I've been using, and all the numbers I'll be mentioning throughout this video will be incorporating this exact build. It's a pretty standard US battleship captain build, but what might immediately stand out here is the artillery plotting room modification in slot 3. The US battleships don't get access to the aiming systems mod. After quite a lot of testing, I've chosen for the extra range, and I'll come back to this when covering the main battery in particular. But first, with any good battleship, the foundation for its capability starts with its armor. Using a simple port screenshot to give you a better visual interpretation of the numbers, USS Kansas gets pretty universal 32mm coverage, with both fore-end plating and aft-end plating all consisting of 32mm. The main deck is also protected by 32mm, and the main Citadel armor belt is 343mm. Now, what isn't represented in the screenshot is that an additional 32mm of torpedo protection sit on top of the main armor belt, extending from the aft end section to the fore end plating. When it comes to the main 406mm gun turrets, they get a frontal plate protection of 457mm, a side plating of 230mm, top plate of 127mm, and a rear plating of 230, and the superstructure gets your standard 19mm. There is an additional fore-end armor belt of 273mm. It's not quite the full icebreaker bow, but useful additional protection nonetheless, and you will need every drop of protection you can muster. Despite looking reasonably strong at face value, USS Kansas has a propensity to take a lot of penetration damage. While facing lower tiers, it's not that bad, but in reality, in the vast majority of Tier 8 games, you will be up-tiered, facing Tier 9 and Tier 10 opponents. The most cruisers you will encounter, barring those few light cruisers not using IFHE, will all be capable of penetrating your armor with high explosive. So any attempt early on to push forward in games will result in the Kansas absolutely melting under any kind of HE focus. So range and concealment will be your friends, and to be used wisely. The advantage of having very slow speed will prevent you getting too far forward too fast, but on the flip side, once you get too far advanced, risking permaspotting, well, disengaging is very, very difficult at that point, as you can't outrun anything. When it comes to survivability, that careful positioning is paramount. to maintaining your 67,000 hit points. Very similar, if just ever so slightly more than the North Carolina and Massachusetts, which is further enhanced by having a max of 5 repair parties when using Superintendent. The Kansas is not called a thick girl for nothing, having a very good torpedo protection, damage reduction of 40%, which is over double the protection offered by the North Carolina, for example. It's not all doom and gloom with the Kansas, as her greatest asset is her main battery, which consists of 12 406mm guns in a 4x3 turret layout, both 2 fore and 2 aft. These 406mm guns have a max firing range of 26.3 kilometers, which can be further enhanced with the spotter plane by an extra 20% up to 31.5 kilometers, a quite massive firing range. These 406mm turrets have a 180-degree turning time of 38.3 seconds and what feels like a very slow reload time of 40 seconds. Being at Tier 8, Kansas gets no access to the reload mod, so 40 seconds is as good as it gets, only improved slightly by Adrenaline Rush. Despite having a large number of shells, the max dispersion is 323 meters, which results in trying to land large numbers of shells at long range can prove a little erratic at times. When forced to deal with heavily armoured angled targets, the high explosive shells of the Kansas are capable of inflicting a max damage of 5700 with a base 38% fire chance, and they are capable of penetrating 68mm of armour plating and have a slightly faster shell speed than its armour-piercing rounds at 803 meters per second. Armour-piercing shells of the Kansas are capable of inflicting a max damage of 11,800 on exploding inside the enemy citadel, and do have a slightly slower shell speed, 768 meters per second. It can get a bit of getting used to, trying to land shells on target at longer ranges, as the intended targets have simply more time to react and maneuver due to the longer shell flight times. So it can require quite a bit of practice, but it is definitely worth it, as there is hope on the horizon, I do assure you, and I'll come back to this later in the video and in future videos. When it comes to secondary armament, USS Kansas gets 16 127mm guns in 8 dual turrets, with a base firing range of 5.3 kilometers, a reload time of 5 seconds, firing high explosive shells capable of a max damage of 1800. They have a base fire chance of 5% and are capable of penetrating 21mm of armour with a shell speed 792 meters per second. Due to the low base range, I would advise against building for secondaries, simply due to the fact that Kansas does not possess the speed or mobility to competently flex its muscles in a brawling role. The Kansas at Tier 8 will regularly come up against carriers, at least from my own experience playing on the EU server, and its defense is not that bad. Kansas gets an AA rating of 84, having 110 AA guns in total, ranging from 20mm right up to 127mm. Combined, they are capable of pumping out an average continuous damage of 322, the majority of which is short to mid-range, firing 6 flak explosions per salvo which can inflict a max damage of 1540 in the 3.5 to 5.8 kilometer range, which is also the max firing range. This is further bolstered by having access to a max of 5 charges of defensive fire, and should you feel the need, you can also sacrifice the spotting aircraft or a fighter consumable for extra defense, making yourself a costly target even for a tier 10 CV. You're far from immune, but you still pose enough threat to deter attacks early on in games at least. Again, playing that bit deeper keeps you away from the majority of high explosive spam that can rapidly destroy your AA mounts, which has the added effect of keeping your defenses intact for when that aerial assault eventually comes. The advantage of having superior long range also allows you to stay close to other high-tier long-range battleships for the added protection of their AA bubbles. So always take this into account when positioning when there is an enemy carrier in the game. So we come to one of the most controversial aspects of the USS Kansas, and with this new branch of American battleships in general, its speed and maneuverability. Kansas gets a base speed of 23 knots, which can be increased to 24.2 knots when mounting the Sierra Mike signal flag. The bottom line is you're going to be going nowhere fast, so patience not only in positioning but also in firing will be integral to you doing well in the Kansas. Kansas gets a turning circle radius of 700 meters, which is very good, and a rudder shift time of 15.7 seconds. So it's possible to fire all your guns and turn quickly to angle properly to any incoming threat. Making the use of this great range can allow you to sit deep in central positions and still have huge amounts of the map covered by your main battery, with the added advantage of getting undetected between salvos. It can get you a lot of opportunities to surprise enemy ships. When it comes to the concealment of the Kansas, it is in itself not amazing at 13 kilometers, and that is with a full stealth build, using both module and captain skill. Due to the nature of playstyle of sitting deep and playing the range game, it does allow one to get a little closer to the action when need be, without sacrificing the safety of concealment between salvos. Kansas will be detected at just under 11 kilometers from the air, and should one ever find themselves in a smokescreen, your detectability after firing your main guns in smoke will be 16 kilometers. The general consensus from having played all three of the new American battleships, Kansas, Minnesota, and Vermont, and I should also include the premium tier 5, Oklahoma, in this, as the playstyle and ship parameters are very similar, in that a large number of main caliber guns is balanced out by slow reload times. These ships are powerful, and I did mention earlier there is light at the end of the tunnel. While I'm prevented by NDA at the moment of release of this video on commenting on the gameplay of the Vermont, the simple fact of the matter is the 457mm guns are very strong indeed, and lessons learned, albeit may be difficult while playing Kansas and Minnesota, they will stand you in good stead for when the Vermont is released. Overwhelming feedback I've heard from players is that it's very hard to have fun playing these ships, and it will prove to be challenging for many, but there is fun to be had with this line. It can feel oh so satisfying, deleting enemy cruisers and battleships with huge damage salvos. And even though I can reflect on my own struggles playing the Kansas and Minnesota, I did learn important lessons, which really had me quite surprised when applied to the Tier 10 Vermont. All I can say for now is stay the course, learn the lessons the Kansas and Minnesota can teach you, and a pleasant surprise awaits you, like a pot of gold at the end of the proverbial rainbow. I let this game play out. It had an ending which even surprised me by how lucky I was. I stream on Twitch 4 times a week. You can see the link here on screen and also find it in the video description below. So come on over, say hi, or just hang for a while and watch some entertaining live gameplay. I'll be covering the Oklahoma and Vermont, among many others, in upcoming videos as soon as they are released, so make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon below to enable notifications so you don't miss out on any news or future giveaways. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you found some useful information on the Kansas and how to play this new branch of US battleships, make sure to hit the thumbs up button below and share it with your World of Warships friends. It really helps out the channel a lot, so thank you all in advance.
Sunk.
I'd like to thank you once again all for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more. Take a moment to check out some of my most recent videos and leave a comment below. And until the next time, keep sailing it like you stole it.